Hi folks, you are very welcome to this week's episode of Genos Live. And as you can see, we are using a Zoom again as our studio. And so it means that you're getting a unique and exclusive preview of our guest up there on the top left. And you can see Elaine hanging around ready to go and introduce our guest and bring him on board and to handle your questions. So good to see you all. You're all very, very welcome. Let me just get my recording going there. There we go. And so let me just dive straight in as I always do. Now, let me tell you that we've had a couple of problems with LinkedIn where LinkedIn has gone down over the last couple of weeks and none of the other platforms have gone down. So you'll see on front of you there a QR code. If you scan that with your camera, it'll take you to the link below there, Genos Emotional Intelligence live stream. And in all of the times that that LinkedIn has gone down, this page continued to operate. So either you can go there and take the stream in there, or you can use it as a backup. Just take a note of it or open it as a tab on your browser, just ready to go. And there's a chat box and everything over there. So just in case something goes wrong with LinkedIn, that's our backup. Now, as is traditional, I want to welcome you. And I'm just wondering, where are you dialing in from today? Because besides anything else, I want to impress our guest with our multinational audience. And I have a sneaking suspicion that most of you who are tuning in today have some kind of sports background or have played amateur sports or maybe even professional sports. And so the topic particularly resonates because it's one of those topics that's going to appeal particularly to folks who have an interest in sport or have played sport or play sport currently. I'm just wondering, when you tuned in, what were you hoping Jef was going to cover? So why not pop some of that into the chat, and Elaine will pick that up for me later on, because we do have a little bit of a structure, and I've spoken to Jef and we put together a couple of questions and we have an idea what we want to talk about, but I really want to cover what you want to cover. So if there are any questions that you want us to cover, well then do let us know. And yes, okay. Let me just check in with Elaine there for a moment because I just got a message. Can you tell me, Elaine, are we live on LinkedIn yet?
Yes, we do appear to be live on LinkedIn. I think people may need to reconnect. I'll send another comment in. I just seen that.
Okay, so it's playing games.
I think it is playing though. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm going to carry on, and apologies, folks. This is just one of the joys of streaming, particularly streaming out of the back of Zoom into LinkedIn. We'll carry on into it, and I'll let Elaine get on with that in the background. Now, as you know, we are an emotional intelligence organization, Genos, and one of the things that you hear me, I often call it my mantra. You hear me talking about emotional intelligence is I'll always say that the way you show up or the way you choose to behave with people determines the way they feel. The way they feel determines the extent to which they will engage with you, and that pretty much determines everything else. And that is the essence of emotional intelligence. It is all about the way you show up. And of course, that's a choice. You can choose the way you show up to have the impact you want to have upon people. And what we do is we help people to understand how to show up to get the best impact, connection, and results, engagement and results from people. This is, you'll have heard last week, my new favorite, most favorite quotation from Bill Markline. And I think it just nails it, particularly in the current climate. That culture is how employees' hearts and stomachs feel about Monday morning when it's Sunday night. And I think right now, if people are feeling any way uncomfortable on Sunday night, they have so many blasted choices that they're voting with their feet. And we hear a lot about the great resignation and turnover contagion and quiet quitting and all that sort of stuff. So the way you show up is important. And as I say, that's what we do. We help people to figure out, how do you want your people to feel? And we do that with emotional intelligence assessments and development programs. And we must be pretty good at it because the ICF has given a benediction to our certification program. And the trainingindustry.com in the States has had us as one of the top 20 assessment companies in the world for the last 5 years. In 2 weeks, they announced this year's results. So fingers crossed for number 6 on that. I said to you over the last several weeks, the last opportunity to get certified in 2022 was going to be the program that started during this week. Well, we had so many people come back to us saying they wanted to get done before the end of 2022, but they couldn't make the October program, that December really is perfect because things get quiet. So we've put a new program on. If you start with us on December 7th, you'll be finished by the last week of January. So if you're a coach, consultant, trainer, you'll be ready to take this offering out to your clients. If you're an internal coach, consultant, or trainer, you'll be ready to bring emotional intelligence assessments offerings into your organization. So do reach out to us if you want to get certified. And I'm going to give a gift to anybody who does decide to get certified, but I'm not going to tell you what it is until we get towards the end of this session. I'm going to give you a concession if you decide to do it, because this is just a perfect time of year to be thinking about getting going next year. So let me bring Elaine in, and I want to unspotlight myself here and stop focus mode. There we go. There you go. So Elaine, you're up. Tell me, what are people telling us out there? Where are they dialing from, and what do they want to cover?
Well, we're really hitting a global audience here. We have Sri Lanka, Uruguay, Ireland, of course. Over on LinkedIn, we have Ireland, the UK. So people from all over today. It's great.
Great. And we got the Belgian contingent as well here.
I'm sure we do. Yeah, they're kind of quiet, but we definitely have them. So great to people joined us from so many different time zones as well. So
For sure. And has anybody put in anything that they'd like Jef to address today, or have they just generally put in the location?
Generally saying hello and their location, and we have Lionel joining us from Uruguay, and he says rugby up Ireland.
Go ahead. Lionel, nice to see you. Okay, folks, thank you very, very much indeed. Well, that brings us straight on to our guest, and that is Jef Brouwers. And again, I just want to make sure, and I'm going to check this with here we go. Add spotlight, and I got it. There we go. So I hope that the pair of us are spotlighted now as Elaine disappears into the sunset to listen to your comments and questions, which I hope you're going to pop up there. Are we good? Have we got two nice looking guys on the screen there on your end, Elaine?
You do. Two great looking fellas.
Super. That's exactly. Oh, I nearly forgot. You need to introduce Jef.
Oh yes, I can do it here in the ether.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, well, welcome, Jef. Jef Brouwers is a business performance psychologist, a soccer referee, Olympic coach to several Belgium Olympic teams. In his early years and through his education, Jef wanted to learn to understand the world and how to support people in finding quality of life. Jef makes it clear that he supports and not helps people in doing this, as only you can help yourself. Jef has found his calling and has spent his career supporting business people, elite athletes and teams in achieving a winning mindset through his vision. It is never not in the mind. Welcome, Jef.
Great. Thank you very much indeed, Elaine. Really appreciate that. And you're very, very welcome, Jef. Thanks for taking the time. And Jef and I have been doing business for a long, long time. We've been friends for a long, long time, but we've never had the opportunity to sit down and talk about this topic at all, Jef, really.
Yeah, that's true. Because we were always too busy to talk about philosophical subjects.
yeah, exactly. And I got together with Jef during this week to talk about what we talk about. And I was amazed that for somebody that I felt I knew so well, that I said that there was just so much I didn't know about him. So Jef, listen, you're very, very welcome. I'm going to dive in with a really big question, just straight out, and then we'll go to a couple of more modest ones. But I'm just wondering, what is the biggest single lesson that you've learned from sports that has changed your business, or that others should learn from sport that can change their business?
Well, for me, it is that if you work with really clean objectives, and things that are so well defined that it is very difficult to stay calm, and it is very difficult not to get nervous. And that's what I learned. You have to really stay in a process and have a project, because otherwise you get lost in your own mind, and there's so much pressure on you to realize all those objectives. So I don't like terms like KPI and things like that, because they make tunnel visions and they make people very nervous. So that's what I think is very important.
Okay.
And certainly in sports, because in sports you have to do it when you have to do it. And in business you get a little bit more time, but more and more you get also the situation where you don't have time. You have to do it now.
So tell me, with sports people getting that sort of clarity, how do you do that? How do you get that absolute clarity? You say, things like KPIs don't help, but having a real clear objective does. How do you help people, when you're coaching them and getting them ready for high performance and top performance? How do you get them into that sort of really clear space, mental space?
Yeah, you have to learn it from a young age. So you need very, very good coaches that know what it is to work with children, to work with youngsters, to work with adults, to work with high performance levels. That's an evolution, and that's why I always use the word process. You have to live in that. You don't have, I do sports, but you have to have a life wherein sports is an important part, like anyone who has a profession. And so the first thing that athletes and also business people and also people in general have to make for themselves is a project. What is your project? What is really your parachute that helps you to land safely on the ground every time that something is happening? And that is today, every day there's something happening, and there's a lot of anxiety in the society because there's always something happening somewhere, and it's not the most beautiful things that are happening everywhere in the world. So people are full of anxiety, and also with the pandemic situation, they are always thinking about what's next, and most of the time they are going into the negative side of what is happening.
Sure. And just curious, because we're all familiar with our own individual experience, but we don't get a window on professional sports people. And I guess when we do, we get to see, if we see them on TV, we see them at their very best and we see them at their peak. What impact have you noticed that these last couple of years of high anxiety have had on sports people who are trying to get their business done?
Well, but I think that what we saw in, for instance, the last Olympic Games, that really the very high performing athletes also performed at the moment they had to. So which is not always been the case, because there were so many things outside of sports that were happening in Olympic villages or in the towns where they organized the Olympic Games. So now there was only their sports, and so you have to be really focused and structured and disciplined to stay in that flow of the Olympic Games, and that made that a lot of athletes that couldn't do that were not emotionally balanced, that they didn't really perform at the levels they could have done. But the best ones, they performed really at the highest levels, because they don't care about external scorecards, about external factors, external things that are happening. So they are really concentrated on their project and their life. So that's it must be a whole. It must be a whole, a system. So that is what made the difference, I think, in Tokyo, in Beijing.
Okay, and tell me, did you notice in the teams that you worked with and the teams that you were working around, did you notice athletes who otherwise would have been expected to be really knock it out of the park in the Olympics, fade back and just not able, just basically disappear out of the rankings?
Yeah, I think so, because they were not used to deal with a very clear concentration on what they had to do at that moment.
Mm.
So there were always things that were asked to the athletes. Put on your gloves. You cannot sit together in a restaurant. You cannot come wherever you want. You cannot go out, and all those kind of things unconsciously make a lot of impact on the brain of people. And only the ones that were really focused, they could deal with what was happening. We had in Belgium, we had one of our great athletes, Nafitiam, and she got her second medal, gold medal in the games. And when she was driving in the bus to the stadium, her coach was taken off the bus because he was COVID positive. They had found out that he was COVID positive, so he had to go out of the bus. And she was on the third position, being a gold medal in Rio. So she was so, let's say, cool. She was so, well balanced that that the whole system did not collapse, and she got anyway in the second day the gold medal. And that is a great example of how all those external elements didn't have an impact on her.
Because of where she was at and the way she had refined, if you like, her mental presence and the way of dealing with it.
Yeah, and also the fact that the coach had spoken about all of the scenarios that could have happened, and everything was arranged, and so she was prepared, and knowing the situation and being aware of how do I react and how do I deal with it and how do I manage everything, and that was driven by the coach, and that's the important role of the coach, the important role even when he's not there. So it's not a dependency, it is an autonomy that she has grown during the time that she worked with her coach, Rosé Lesperard.
Okay. You must have, and even though you're dealing with world-class athletes who have that, as you say, that preparation over their entire lives from when they were young, working with really great coaches, being prepped so that they have that mental toughness. But then they arrive at what is probably what it has to be for every sports person, the pinnacle of their potential achievement. And the pressure must get to some of them, and must have gotten to some of them. How, and I think of that as an analogy for what's going on in business right now. People, all of our clients are reporting that all of their people are under tremendous stress. How, as a coach in that situation, in that pressure cooker, how do you identify somebody who is silently suffering or silently struggling? And then secondly, how do you go about reaching out to them in a respectful way to try and support them?
Well, I think that the main condition to deal with that is the connection.
Okay.
So when you can only interpret when people are not talking.
Okay.
So the fact is that if you're not talking, nobody knows, because you only think you know.
Sure.
And that's why through the connection, you get into the brain, but not in your interpretation, because they will talk to you. They will explain what is going on in their feelings, not in their brain, but what do they feel? Because we all feel first and then think. So it's not that you think, am I feeling good? To 2 minutes. No, it is, I feel what I feel. I feel what I feel, and I have to deal with it. And if you put it on the table, then we can see what is happening, and then we can do something about it. And then we start in the first place with screening proactively to know about who is this athlete, and what's the inside of this athlete, and how does this athlete feel about winning, losing, about the life they are living, how is their life, and all those kind of things. So you have to know the athlete very well, and that's where we as psychologists, we assist the coach, because the coach is the driver, not the psychologist, is an expert.
Sure.
But he feeds the coach in not losing time, because athletes don't have so much time.
Sure.
So not losing time to know the athlete that they work with. And in a team, it's exactly the same as with an individual. And then you can start working in dealing with the emotions when something goes wrong, when something goes well, because we all know in sports that you have decompression. When you win, you're very happy, and happiness sometimes causes damages, and also not winning causes also damages. And then you can deal with it, and you can explain to the coach how can you deal with it related to the screening of the athlete on all kinds of things, on thinking, the way they think, the way they behave, the way they are interested in things, the way they are emotionally reacting. And that is the fundamentals for me of a real effective approach of sportsmen through our role in sports.
And I guess in sports it's kind of different to the business world in the sense that the athlete, if I can use the expression, has signed up to be directly coached and supported and assisted to get to their best performance. So there's almost a contract there between those people that we're going to work together to get the best performance out of me. In a business environment, there might not be the same sort of clarity of that contract. How would you approach, let's say, as I say, in a business situation, you see somebody who's under the pressure? Let's say you're looking ahead and you want to be ready to support somebody who's under pressure. How would you go about developing that sense of connection that you spoke about there with people on your team in a business?
Yeah, I think that I would work exactly the same in business as in sports, except for the fact that a lot of people think that it is different, business and sports. But more and more, sports predicts how it's going to be in a short period of time, in business too, because everything is more and more short term. You have to really perform today. And that is something that you have to explain sometimes to make people in business aware. Sometimes business leaders are not always aware of what they put in a slide. They sometimes put in a slide, you are our human capital. But in the room, there are many people that think you're lying. So it is the consistency and the respect for the people and your honesty about what is going on. There's nothing wrong if you have to do something which is not so nice for some people. Because it's business, it's exactly the same in sports. But you have to be honest, and you have to be proactive in that sense that the people can predict what is going to happen. So this teamwork of highly positioned leaders and maybe people that are just executing things, that does not exist anymore. You don't have just executing people, and they all are aware what is happening in the world. They are really informed about everything. So that is how the world has changed. So when you see in sports, Club Brugge is a Belgian club, and they won against Atletico Madrid. And this morning, a journalist called me and he said, "What is happening? What is happening? This coach, he is standing there, and it looks as if he doesn't have emotions." And then I said, no, he certainly has a lot of emotions, but it is not useful to show them at that moment, to jump around or to be angry or to do all those kind of things. No, he has a job. He has a job, and emotional intelligence is extremely important to always stay in the role you have. That is making the players win and win for the business of the club, and the club to be the champion, etc. And that is what I think business can learn from those kind of coaches. that has a team, and he works with a team, and you see that the guy is listening. He's listening to what he learns in courses, in pro license course. You see that. You see that he is taking care of who am I, how am I acting along the line, and that he changes, because in the beginning of the season he was extremely emotional along the line, and he changed that, and it is so amazing that he did that continuously journalists ask questions about his strange behavior, which is not strange. No, it's very intelligent.
Sure. Emotionally intelligent. Something you said there a moment ago, and it came up a lot when we were talking during the week. You came back to it several times, and you got into it very, very early, and you talk a lot about connection and the importance of connection. Can you break out, what are the elements of what you consider to be connection, and why is it so important? Why do you feel it's so important?
Well, it is important because it is one of the three elements of the self-determination of people. And self-determination theory of Dacey and Ryan is a theory that exists since quite a long time. And those two professors, researchers, they are trying to kill their own theory since 50 years.
Right.
To find where doesn't it work? And it is, the first is your competence, the second is your autonomy, and of course these two are linked, because if you're not competent, it is very difficult to give you an autonomy. And then the connection, and those three, when they have a real big overlap, people are intrinsically motivated. And this intrinsic motivation, makes it come true that athletes or people in general start to do what they want to do. They are not thinking, like you said in the beginning, what are you thinking on Sunday night about Monday morning? So that's terrible if you don't think, oh, I'm happy with Monday morning. So, and there's a lot of people today that are not so happy with Monday morning. So, and it is because generally the human factor in business is, I could use the other word that you said, quietly quitting. And that is what makes the difference. It is that you mean human capital is human capital. It's not it's not something like a product. It's not. It's an attitude. It is a culture. It is something that you feel, not that what you think. So I work for a company, and it is a slaughtery of chicken. And the human resources manager says, it's a big company, says we are really doing our utmost best to go from the chicken to the people that work here. Because that's the product. That's the product. And I mentioned that because it's not such a nice product.
It's not a sexy product.
Not a sexy product. So people have to really understand, that it's a business, and that whether you like it or not, if you work there, they are the product.
Okay, thank you. I see Elaine there, and I think there must be some questions. So if you want to unmute there, Elaine.
Yeah, hi. Jef, Suzanne just said the theory you just spoke about, she didn't catch it. Could you just re-emphasize what that theory is again for her, please?
Well, the self-determination theory is, for me, one of the pillars of performance. And that self-determination theory says that you first have to be competent in what you're doing, and that the investment in competence is very important. And the second thing, if you are competent, the more you're competent, the more you get autonomy. The more you can say, you can do within those limits that we give you because you work in an organization, or you work in a football team, or you work in whatever. There's always limits. It's not freedom. But your competencies, if you grow yourself, you can have much more autonomy, and then you get all those things from your boss or from a person that is working with you, and that is the connection. So if you're connected, you can feel that you're connected, and that connection makes it come true that you deliver results with your competencies and your autonomy. And that is intrinsic motivation. If you go, for instance, and that's what I said earlier in this webinar. So I said, when you are focusing on a medal or focusing on a KPI, it is, let's say, it is, it's included. There's in the world, there's no people that don't want to win. It's inbuilt. It's inbuilt. That's there from birth. And what winning is depends on the person. But you always want to realize something. You always want to have success. There's nobody, when you say who wants success, it's always a success for you, because all hands go up and all people start to laugh. So they are immediately much more happy when you talk about success. So why do we talk so much about not winning? Why do we talk so much about failures? So more and more we think, in psychologists, researchers, they say you cannot learn so much from your failures because it puts you in a situation that you don't like. So, and if you're in a situation that you don't like, you will not perform. And that is then the intrinsic motivation. And that is this theory of the C and Ryan that brings up what do you have to do to be intrinsically motivated. So the external factors is money, or is a premium, or whatever. But that's very, very short motivation. And we can only survive, we can only make great companies through that element of intrinsic motivation. I like to work here. The reason, because we talk about quiet quitting, is because people say I'm going to disappear here because it's not good here. There's
no connection.
I feel that I have to go, but I'm going to do it quietly.
Well, it just so I get the sense of what you're talking about, connection. If I'm a team leader watching this, let's say I'm a new team leader and I've never led a team before, and it's my second day, and I'm really listening. I'm thinking, shoot, I have to connect with my people. How do you establish that sense of connection with people? How do you, in a practical sense? In I guess in some ways there's kind of more overt shared mission in a sports situation, but say in a business situation, how do I reach out and establish that sense of connection?
Well, I think that the magic word is situationally.
Okay.
It is who is the person that I'm working with, and so connecting is individual. Yeah. Connecting is related to the situation you're in, and it is through informing people, through telling them what their value is in your team, telling them what they are good at, that's it. It is really something that I promote. You can only do something with what people are able to do, not with what they are not able to do. So when you go to school, school is a little bit an eliminating business.
Sure.
So you get not so good points, and then they say, oh, drama. So they focus on the not so good points. So they put it in red. So we are educated to see the red numbers. Of course. We are not developing people. We are using talent, and we are using what students do to make them really successful. but we lose a lot of others that are not performing at the level that the professor or whoever thinks you have to get in your numbers. So that's how do you tick really the assets of people to make them successful, and that in sports is extremely important. So I worked with the Red Lions, which is the hockey team, and the hockey team of Belgium. I started there in 2005, and in 2016 they got a silver medal, and in 2021 they got a gold medal. And the coach that realized that was the guy that continuously was busy, not necessarily in a visible way, with the self-determination, because in 2015 the players decided that's how we want to organize ourselves. That's how we want to organize our team. And the coach that came, Shane McLeod, he used all that material. He came in 2015 at the end of the year, 10 months before the Olympic Games. And he used all the input from the players to start his work, instead of saying, hey, I'm the new coach, and now we are going to play like that. No, he used that intrinsic motivation, and that was really the start to the top. And in Tokyo 2020, they did exactly what they had found out in 2015, and that is a gold medal. And they were very sad that it didn't happen in Rio in 2016. So it is their plan, it is their project, and the coach used their project, which makes him a genius of competence, of autonomy, and of connection. So I think they all love him, not because he won that medal, but that he let them decide how their system was.
And you said to me, we were talking about, by the way, let me just give a nod to Elaine and ask me, do you want me, just give me a thumbs up when you want me to stop for questions. You want to stop for questions? Yep, let's go. And I'll come back to the hockey team in a moment, Jef, because question I really want to ask you about that. Go ahead.
It's more comments and support for you, Jef, really. So Susanna thanks you for your earlier reply to her, and she also said that confidence is the antidote to fear, which is a nice little sentiment. Guy is joining us from Dubai, I think it was, and he said, invest in competence, grow yourself to achieve autonomy. Intrinsic motivation is the key. And he said, great advice from you. And he said, I love it. I love to learn from the team and use strengths to grow beyond. So really positive comments. And you got a lot of support for your sentiments around schooling. There was hand claps and love hearts flying everywhere for it. So really rousing comments here. They're really engaged with you. It's great.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. And just give me a wave when we have other questions, and I'll pull you in. You were talking about the Belgian hockey team, and during the week you said to me, Jef, that they went into the Olympics not feeling or not thinking, but knowing they were going to win a gold medal. Now, I think you've explained some of why that was, because they obviously had won it long before they got there, up here and mentally, and they were very, very focused upon it. But it sounds to me like what people like me would call a success mindset going in there. How much, or how important do you think is the whole thing of mindset in sports performance?
Well, I think that the word says it itself, because you set your mind in the right direction, but you cannot decide to put it in the right direction, because it is always the consequence of a complete process and a continuous process. It never stops. So when something happens in sports, you lose a match, it cannot impact everything that you're doing. And it will not when it is a process and a project. That is what we often don't emphasize on in business, because it is, what are you doing? And this is wrong. And We have evaluation talks, and evaluation talks are moments. They are so artificial. You have to connect the whole time with your people to make them better. So a great leader, a great coach is a developer of people, and he's a multiplier of competences. And yeah, a lot of people don't know when they are nervous that they sometimes are or maybe reducing the number of competencies because they are reducing the internal motivation of people. They are only busy with I have to work to eat or whatever. So the external motivation wins it from the internal motivation, and that is something that it's a dream that people might understand, that really it's not a slogan, that people are the business, and that autonomy of people based on competence is a very important element of that success. So it is to make people happy. You don't make them happy with something that you give them. You make them happy with something that you are doing with them. So that is so important, and that is something that I really want to do always when I'm working. It is, how can I make people feel good when I'm doing whatever with them, and that is then you connect, because you asked me what is connecting. Then you connect. Then you can develop people. So coaches that you have coaches that make serial winners. And, those coaches are most of all people that can control what they are doing, that they are not getting emotional because it's sports. Because sports at the highest level, it makes a difference when you win a gold medal or you don't win a gold medal. It is completely different when you win the Champions League in football, or when you win the World Championship in cycling. It makes immediately a huge difference in your life. And that is what I experienced in the team of now Quickstep Alpha Vinyl, where we had the 3 last years we had the world champion. So, and the way they speak about the team is so important. You feel that they love their team. They love their team. They call it the wolf pack. They had they had that great idea of giving their team not the name only of Quickstep Alpha Vinyl, but also the wolf pack, because they always think about the wolf. So you have an official name, and then you create a name. We had with the 4x400 relay, we were looking for a name, and it became the Belgian Tornadoes. So they have 17 medals in 30 30 international competitions. And that clan idea, that makes a huge difference, because they think we belong really to this team. And sometimes there are different athletes that have to join, because it's almost always 3 brothers and 2 twins in that. So that is the strength, that natural feeling of belong to that team.
And again, we're coming back, going back around, and it seems to be a thread running through it. We're coming back around again to connection. Now, let me just hold us there for a second, because I see Elaine just signaling that there's a question coming in from somebody, I think.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. So Guy asks, Jef, what is the single action which a leader can take to achieve what success mindset in a team? I think it's that success mindset in a team. So what is the one thing that you could do to help achieve that?
Well, I think there's only one word, that is working with the assets, with the strong points of the team members. And looking for success for all the team members. It's always the same. It's not possible to win games if you're always giving negative comments. That's why Marcus Buckingham, he has written a book, 9 Lies About Work. And one of the lies is people like feedback. They don't like feedback. They only like constructive feedback. They only like feedback that they ask for.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to make them ask questions. And am I doing good? What do you think of my work? Should I change something? And that is, you really, take into account that they have a brain themselves, and that they have feelings about what they do with their brain. So when you respect people, respect of people is not only because FIFA, when you look at the Champions League, you always see on the sleeves of the shirts, you see respect. But then you see what's happening on the pitch. So sometimes it's contradictory. So it's a word, but you have to fill it in. You have to fill it in, and that is how you make people successful and how you make teams successful. It is, I respect what you are doing for this team. You add value, and your value is this. You cannot have value on anything because you're limited as a person, and you have to accept that you're limited. But that's not the problem if they use your assets.
Okay. Thank you for that, and thank you for the question, Guy. Was there another question there, Elaine, or?
Well, Guy just actually wrote a response back to you as well, Jef. He said, I believe that before the first medal, it is not so easy. Once you have the medal, it accelerates the mindset. A nice encouragement.
It depends on whether the medal is really predicted, and that you are in that process of winning a medal. Then you just continue. That is the metaphor of the podium. If you are watching a competition and there's a podium, you have to really be aware that you see always athletes climbing on the podium and getting off the podium. And the serial winners, they are already thinking when they take the first steps down of the podium, what am I going to do tomorrow? So they are just for a moment dealing with the emotions, and they like it, etc. But then they start again. You can never stop. If you're a winner, you can never stop. And the best winners, like in history of swimming, Mark Spitz, Phelps, they were just continuing. And when they were not doing that in the right way, and maybe some people know the history of Phelps, he was going down the drain. He was, after his lots of medals, he was just collapsing completely, and his life became really a mess. And he talks about that. If you see Federer, who just stopped, the tennis player, he was, as a youngster, when you read his book, his parents didn't know what to do with him because he was such a difficult boy. And now, every family wants him as the man of the children, and that's very important. It's a I don't know how you say that in English, but the preferred son-in-law, something like that.
The favorite son-in-law.
He changed completely because he controlled himself, and it's interesting to read his biography. You can see that he is really changing continuously in dealing with his emotions.
Thank you. I notice we're about 10 minutes away from the end, and I have on my list of questions, I have 2 Jef Brouwers memes that I wanted to explore with you, because they really, you said them without explanation to me several times, and I've heard you say them to other people, and they just resonated with me. So I thought I'd just bring them out. And the first one, and this is a real Jef Brouwers special, it's never not in the mind. What's that all about?
Well, it's not mine. It's not mine. And I really use it. It is a meme of a truism, they call it, of
truism.
Jenny Holzer, and Jenny Holzer is an American based artist who projects those kind of truisms on buildings with lights. And she has, she's done that in Düsseldorf, and that's where I saw it on a building. And of course, as I am a suspect psychologist, I agreed immediately with what she was projecting. And I use it because our brain is our only boss. Sometimes you think it is this person, or my boss is my boss, but it's not. Your boss is not your boss. It is, what do you do with what you see? What do you do with the people around you? That is your boss, and your brain is your boss. And that is why people, in my opinion, using Holzer's truism, have to be aware of that. They can also do things to know better, how their brain works, and how they see that their reactions whenever something happens, and how am I dealing with my competencies, and how fast am I frustrated, or when I'm happy, what am I doing, and those kind of things, because you feel that. And that's why it is never not in the mind, because your brain is really distributing all the chemicals in your body, and it is happening unconsciously. It just happens. You have some thoughts, and thoughts are sometimes automatic, and then you have immediately automatic emotions with that. And that is why I'm so I'm so happy with her slogan. It's never not in the mind, because I'm convinced of that.
So that's where you always have to go back to in the first instance. It's interesting, as you were saying that, something came into my head during the week. I started off this week in great form, absolutely excited about where the company is going, excited about our business. And on Tuesday, a prospect that I had great hopes for called up and said, "Nah, we decided not to go with you, Derek," which happens. You get losses from time to time. And they said, and on a dime, as the Americans would say, I went from being full of the joys of spring, really excited about the business, to, oh God, everything is black and gloomy and grim. And even though I was stopping objectively and saying, hey, hang on, there's only one thing has changed in the last few minutes. It amazed me looking at it that I went from this place to this place just because of one thing. And it all came down exactly to what you're saying, the emotional and the thought response, that the response that I had to that particular situation. So it's never not in the mind. Another one that you mentioned, and this speaks for itself, and I hope it is actually a Jef Brouwers meme.
That's
when the fun stops, the stress starts. You saw that coming. Tell me more about that, because with your experience, that's even more poignant. When the fun stops, the stress starts.
Well, it is a little bit the same as the other one, because if you don't feel good, you feel bad. So it's easy to understand, but a lot of people feel when it happens. And I think that with athletes, with business people, I have always in mind that you cannot take the right decisions when you are under stress. And most of the time it is because, you start liking something, and because of the pressure, it becomes more and more stressing. So you are going into the tunnel, and you get stuck in the tunnel. And I compare it a little bit. I'm a man, but I dare to compare it with a bird. To get back, you have to really come out of that.
Be reborn.
You reborn, and rebalance your system, because if you don't do that, you stay stuck in that in that situation. And that is when you are not introducing enough fun. Because like sports people, they all start because they like what they are doing.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, I don't know, coaches or parents, they say, oh, now you are with the elite of your sport. Now it becomes serious.
Yeah.
But it's never serious. There's not so many things that are serious except losing something that you love a lot or that dies. That is serious. But for the rest, there's not so many things that are serious in life. Because when you take things serious, you might think that you are serious and that you can solve things, but there's so many things that you cannot solve and that you cannot control. And so a lot of philosophers from ancient Greece or from ancient Rome, they have given us so many things to think about, that you cannot control what you cannot control. You cannot change what you cannot change. So don't invest in those things, but think about what you can do. And it makes you more successful.
Okay, and on that note, let go of the things that you can't control and attend to the things that you can. I want to thank you, Jef. We're coming up on 2 minutes, and I wanted to make sure that I mentioned something about Jef. And Jef is the one of the founders of Tika Talent. And Jef, just in a minute or a minute and a half, why should people, what should people contact you for? What is it that Tika can do for them? And folks, if you want to contact Jef, I'll get out of the way there. In fact, you can see there is the address at the bottom, or you can scan that QR code. What do Tika Talent do, and what should they contact? What should people contact you for?
Well, we are always busy with processes, not with something, but something that is very situational. That starts with who are you as a company, as a sports team, as an individual. Who are you and what are your needs? Where you think we can support you, we can do something with you to make life more like performing, because we are really related with performance.
Sure.
But how can you perform under pressure without pressure? That is what we try to specialize in. How can you feel good in this world by controlling what you can control, and what is there that you can control? So that's our business. That's our business of Tika, and people can always contact me, and we'll see what we can do. My address is jeff@tika.be, and so everybody can send questions. I always respond to the questions, so it's not a problem when they send me lots of questions, because I like that. Because when fun stops, stress starts. If I don't get questions, I might get stressed.
Thank you, Jef. So you heard it from the man's mouth, and I just as I was looking, just as Jef was calling out his address and his email address, I just thought, what a clever guy. One, the name of the company is 5 letters long, and he has a 3-letter name, so nobody can get Jef at Tika incorrect. So you heard it here. He wants, Jef is happy to take any questions that you possibly that you care to send to him. Jef, please stay with us for a second. I'm just going to say goodbye to folks. Next week we have Zach Mercurio, and some of you have seen him on previous programs with us. And you know what? Everything is connected to everything, and he's going to talk about why people need to feel like they matter, why people have the need for significance or need to feel like they belong, which is really attaching itself very much to some of the things that Jef said today. So that is next week at 4:30 in this part of the world, London or Irish time. If you want to scan that QR code, we can send you a reminder. If you're already registered for that, you're good to go. I said to you that if you wanted to take a certification program, anybody who quotes this session with Jef we'll give you a 20% discount if you sign up for the December program. And just remind us that we said that because we don't have a fancy system that has a code that you plug into it on that. So once again, I want to thank Jef. Thank you very, very much. And I hope, Jef, that we can get you back separately once we've ended this meeting and get you back just for 2 minutes to say thank you. But
Okay,
meantime,
thank
let me say
you
thank you in
all.
front of everything.
Thank all folks to be there because I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jef, and thanks, Elaine. And see all y'all next week, please. God, take care. Bye-bye.